Welcome to Upwards, sponsored by the Microsoft Aspire Experience, where we share stories and insights to help you grow 1% better in your personal and professional life every episode. Here are your hosts for today's episode, Zach Zhu and Alex Kessel.
Welcome, everybody. We have a fantastic episode for you today. Welcome to another episode of Upwards. Thank you for listening, Upwardians. And we have a phenomenal guest for all of you today. And I'm going to pass it off to my amazing co-host, Alex.
Thanks, Zach. It's so good to be on an episode with you. It's a first run for our little duo here, so I'm excited.
So lovely.
We've got Ethan Alexander joining us on the line, and today's episode is going to be some pretty inspirational stuff. We're really looking forward to it. Ethan, why don't you say hello to everyone and give us a brief little intro to who you are at Microsoft and outside, and whatever you'd like to give to our audience so we can know you better.
Hey, what's going on? I'm Ethan Alexander. I have a senior CSAM at Microsoft, and outside of Microsoft, I'm a motivational advisor. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you for coming on.
Absolutely. Ethan, you have a phrase that anyone who has met you has heard, and anyone who has completed a call with you has definitely heard. and that is, have a great day on purpose. And there's so much in there that we want to unpack, but as we start talking about motivation, everything else here, what's the story behind have a great day on purpose?
I think it starts with me more than a few years ago, where I was literally trying to find myself. And actually it was when I first started Microsoft, like 10 years ago, right? My thing was the money was the motive. That was my motto, was the money was the motive. I started with Microsoft working in the stores in Atlanta. I opened up the Atlanta store, and it was about, I wanted to get to the bag. I wanted the money. That's what I was about. And I had a friend at the time, and she was just like, you know what? You should listen to this 1950s American radio host. He's phenomenal. He has this thing where he said, thoughts become things. So when you think about that, I started saying, have a great day on purpose, because I realized that when people would ask me how my day was, I had to think about it first. Like, yo, I had a good day. It was cool. It was this, it wasn't. But then something clicked for me, and I was like, yo, when you get up in the morning, the intent should be to have a great day. It should never be at the end of the day when Alex is like, hey, Ethan, how was your day? I'm saying, you know what? I have to think about it. No, if I get up every single morning and I make the intention to have a great day, I'm going to have a great day. So regardless of what happens throughout my day, I'm still going to have a phenomenal day. So that's where have a great day on purpose stemmed from.
That is a phenomenal intention. And obviously, talking about 10 years ago when you first started at Microsoft, that mindset of getting the bag, money, that's a pretty clear dichotomy from having a great day on purpose, which has no kind of financial incentive direction around that. Can you tell us about how you felt when you first made that realization and how you started to transition away from that initial mindset that you had?
I realized that I work for Microsoft because I love what I do. Nobody makes money. The only people who make money work at a mint. We all earn money based on a service rendered. Legit, that's what it is. When you remove the money from the equation and you focus on sitting with yourself and you focus on doing what makes you feel alive, your life literally changed. And that's why for me, I had to remove the money. The money is cool. But then I realized that money never meant anything to me. Yeah, I've had the flashy stuff. At one point in time, I was extremely materialistic. That was what success looked like to me at that point. It wasn't about anything else. It was about, you know what? I work for a phenomenal company. I can afford it. So I went from not having the name brand stuff and wanting the money and saying, I want the money because I want to do X, Y, and Z, to saying, you know what? As long as my son is cool and my family is fine, I'm good. I'm going to disassociate myself with money to an extent of like holding on to it. And I'm going to focus on my purpose. And when I realized what my purpose was, it made life easier, because when you realize your purpose and then the money comes, if it doesn't feel like work, it's like, you know what? It's like the best thing in the world, because I'm doing what makes me feel alive. Like talking to you all. This is what makes me feel alive. I'm not getting paid for it. It's just, it's one of those things where for me, having a conversation with y'all and hearing your perspectives and you actually reaching out to me, Alex, and asking me about my perspective months ago. Like, that's really what it's about.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think I think to some degree, almost everyone can echo part of that desire to find something that's more fulfilling than whatever we picked initially when we came into the tech world or any work, because you go in, especially out of university, with like, I've prepped the last 8 years of my life for this. Like all high school, you're thinking about what college you're going to, and all college, you're thinking about what you're going to do afterward. And then you get there and you're like, wait, now hold on. This is different because it's every day. It's a different type of, there's a different buildup and whatnot. Something that I want to tap into, because you can articulate the energy gained from finding your purpose. What did it look like to discover your purpose? Were there disciplines or practices that you were doing that brought that to your attention? How did you figure that out? Because I think a lot of people out there are curious what their purpose, quote unquote, is that they haven't discovered yet, if they aren't sure.
I think I figured it out when I figured out who I was. And I think a lot of people don't know who they are. I mean, just a high level background on me. As a person who was assigned female at birth, I transitioned within Microsoft. So I was assigned female at birth. Nobody could understand that. The last few years, even serving as a worldwide policy co-director of the ERG here at Microsoft Glean, I realized that reliving my trauma at the expense of educating others was no longer meaningful for me. So I decided to no longer do it. So just starting with the fact that knowing who you are and being okay with who you are. I couldn't explain, why I felt like I was always a grown man. I could never explain that. And in my household, having conversations about the LGBT community, let alone the trans community, was never a thing, right? So once I realized who I was, and I knew who I was for a while, but as with anybody else, I was scared at one point in time, right? And I think that's what makes you brave. In order to be courageous, you have to fear something. It got to a point where I sat with myself and I said, am I really going to tiptoe through life trying to make it safely to death? I'm not, because we're all in this thing called life, and life is so phenomenal, right? Why not live the best? Because you and I don't know what happens after that. So while I'm here, what can I do to make sure that I'm living my life for Ethan? So that's when my purpose started.
I can't tell you how much I admire your courage and just overall self-trust to kind of embrace who you are and finding that inherent purpose. Because, I mean, even from my ethnic background, coming from an Asian upbringing, I've had a bunch of Asian American friends who were constantly pushed to become engineers, become doctors, when at their heart, they wanted to be artists. They wanted to produce music. They wanted to do something of the creative venue. So I think a lot of new hires are probably in that space of not knowing how to trust themselves fully and just having that overall courage. And what kind of advice would you give to our listeners that are feeling that way, who don't really have that courage to trust themselves yet?
The only thing that I would say is that you live every day, you only die once. A lot of people say you only live once, you only die once. I live by that. You live every single day. Every day you can wake up and you can decide to start over. And it's okay to change your mind. A lot of folks feel like you can't change your mind. Once you say something that's in stone, it's not in stone. It's not in stone, because you could be presented with more information and knowledge, and you can say, you know what? Oh, wow, I never looked at it that way. Let me go back to the drawing board. It's one of those things that I would say for anybody, like, no one will advocate on your behalf or know what you're going through unless you decide to stand on your own 2 feet, 10 toes down.
So that kind of leads pretty well into my second follow-up question, which is, how do you define the word purpose?
I would say your gut. I would say my purpose is I go with my gut. So I know that being a motivational advisor is my purpose. You know why? Because when I do it, I feel good. It's not forced. It's not a forced thing. Even purpose when it comes to relationships. I read a lot of stuff about like spirituality and even Buddhism and stuff like that. I can't recall who it was, but they said, if you meet somebody and your heart starts to beat really fast, run the other way. If you get butterflies, run the other way, because that's your gut telling you that you're not supposed to. When you meet people that are on your frequency and their energy is good, you're calm. You feel like home with them. Why is my heart beating 1,000,000 times an hour when I meet you? I shouldn't, because it's something about your energy that don't mix with my energy. And I believe that energy is, and I think that that's huge. So with me, when I say purpose, it's intentional. Everything that I do is intentional.
One of my mentors said that uncertainty is a gut reaction.
Your gut warns you so many times and we don't follow it because we like, no, we're probably overthinking it, but it's your gut, not your heart.
I know we definitely resonate with that. I mean, this was awesome. I think that kind of leads into wanting to spread this and share this with more folks.
So how does this level of self-awareness and critical thinking in your personal life transition into the professional work that you do or your career in general?
Because that takes me everywhere I go. I don't change. That's really who I am. It's not a facade. And I think for a lot of people, it could be a facade. You know, they say you show the faces you show your coworkers and the faces you show your family. I can assure you if something were to happen to me tomorrow, everybody at my funeral would say the same thing. I was the same person. It's just a thing of, if you are literally authentic and you are who you are, you don't have to fake it.
That's a lot of great things to think about. What was the hardest moment for you in bringing, your authentic self to work, or like the worst day where you just wanted to say it was a bad day and reframe everything as a bad day? And how did you overcome that?
When I think about a day that was like crazy for me was when I first transitioned 9 years ago, and had a new boss. And my new boss, we was in a circle. So my whole team already knew that I was transitioning. I made the decision. And I think that's the biggest thing about being your authentic self in any aspect. Sometimes you don't need to ask permission. You have to be careful asking people how they feel about things, because when you ask people how they feel about things, you leave a window open for them to tell you that it's not cool or not to do it, or like try to convince you, right? So we had a new boss and we're all in a circle. And she says, I want everybody to get in a circle. And I want everybody to tell me something I don't know about them. Right? So I already knew. I said, oh, yeah. Oh, I know exactly what I was excited. And you know what? My peers in the circle was like, oh, hell, I already know what's about to be said. Like, it was one of those things where everybody was just waiting for it. They like anxious. They like patiently waiting for it to get to me. Right?
Oh, my gosh.
And I said, and at that point, I was going by the name of TJ. So I said, my name's TJ and I'm transitioning. She's like, what? I was like, yeah, I'm transitioning into a guy. And she's like, oh, okay. And then afterwards, she had a conversation on the side. Yeah, exactly. And she said, you know what, you shouldn't have did that because you don't know how I feel about what you're doing. When she told me that, I'm sitting there like, what? And then for a while, I sat with myself and I was just like, yo, that's crazy. Maybe I should. I was like, oh, this is crazy. And then I would travel a lot. And she said, and while you're traveling, don't tell people what you're doing. Just don't tell people. And I'm thinking like, what the hell? Who are you?
Jeez.
But for me, it made me who I am today, because for a while, one, like I said, I grew up in a household where this wasn't even a conversation. So honestly, I was telling people that I was a guy. I'm transitioning. I'm a trans man because I'm a black man of the trans experience. When you think about certain privileges, I'm a black man. When you see me, you see a black man. You would have never known I was trans unless I told you. You would have never known that I transitioned unless I told you. And I love that, because for me, it was never about the trans experience. It was about me not being able to identify with this body because my soul was a man always, right? So from that standpoint, that was a hard thing for me, because here you have a person that's supposed to be your manager that you're trusting with your entire career in your hand. And I'm so grateful that she ended up being one of my biggest advocates, because she realized, like, she really became what she still contacts me to this day. And, I had to forgive her. And that's what I do. I forgive people, because if I don't forgive you, it ain't hurting you. It's hurting me. I'm the one thinking about it. I'm the one holding on to it. And I would say that was one of the hardest days
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for allowing us to have this Ethan Alexander experience, because you are an incredible, incredible individual. And before we close out this amazing episode, are there any parting words that you would like to send to our listeners?
Have a great day on purpose. But I do appreciate you, Alex and Zach, for having me. Thank you for hosting me, amazing host. I hope that you walk away learning something, even if it's something really minute. And, I think you're awesome. And I think what you're doing is amazing. And keep up the great work.
What an incredible episode. Ethan Alexander, phenomenal guest. Could not think of a better person to really give that perspective on being your true, authentic self. And I mean, that's still something that I'm working on every single day. And I feel like this is a conversation topic that we've had a few times, Alex.
We absolutely have. I think something that stuck with me that I really just loved hearing him articulate, over and over when he was talking about, going through something that's tough and acknowledging that it was hard and pointing out that our strength is in our resiliency, not in our immutability. It's like, I can have a hard time. I'm just choosing how to approach it and overcome it. I think that's really powerful, because I think, we get caught up in wanting to be like Iron Man or something instead of just being somebody who can bounce back or can overcome, especially with the stuff that was how to live today intentionally. I think it was the Dalai Lama. Don't quote me on that, everyone, but who said there are 2 days in a year that you can't do anything about. And they're called yesterday and tomorrow. And today is the only one you can do anything about. To me, that just stuck with me. So I think that is something I learned from today and really loved.
For sure. Absolutely. Just being very, very intentional. Like, society teaches us to embody all sorts of different personalities for whatever situation or group of people that we're spending time with. And I mean, Ethan's a prime example here of the amount of success that you can gain, even more so than switching your personality just by being your full, true, authentic self in whatever kind of capacity that you're in.
Yeah, completely agree. Well, thanks for joining us on the episode today, everyone. I hope you all walk away with a little bit of inspiration, and we'll catch you next time on the next episode of Upwards. This is Alex signing off.
And Zach signing off. See you guys next episode.
Thanks for listening to Upwards. Be sure to subscribe on your preferred podcast platform and leave us a review. Learn more about the Microsoft Aspire experience at aka.ms/Microsoft Aspire experience. We'll catch you next time on Upwards.